I can't believe we're getting to the end of the day. Time for some closing remarks. Culture, business, and conflict management. This is going to be a short speech from Ziyad al-Suderi. He is the SCCA Court VP, an international arbitrator on principle at Ziyad al-Suderi law firm. Ziyad, the stage is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to address you today and to present to you on a subject that lies at the heart of arbitration. These remarks come at the end of a long day, rich and stimulating ideas from distinguished speakers and panelists with much to offer. I therefore will strive to be brief. I am reminded of the supplication attributed to a famous Umayyad Caliph. May God have mercy on the person who knows their place. The topic I wish to address today is the common practice of parties to arbitral disputes appointing their respective arbitrators, who in turn attempt to agree on the third arbitrator, failing of which agreement, a court or arbitration center makes the final decision on the appointment of the chairman of the tribunal. I wish to discuss in these remarks the pitfalls that are inherent in this common practice and point to an alternative that is readily available to parties and that may be free of these pitfalls. Arbitration as an alternative to litigation is valued for its perceived flexibility, efficiency, and ability to provide neutral and specialized adjudication. And the common practice of allowing parties to directly appoint arbitrators is said to be consistent with the fundamental principle of arbitration, namely party autonomy. In other words, that parties have control over the process, including the ability to select arbitrators whom they believe will understand their case. But direct party appointment of arbitrators presents challenges that put into question whether it truly delivers on the sought-after party autonomy. And it presents challenges on the other metrics we strive to achieve, namely impartiality, efficiency, fairness, and legitimacy. Let me elaborate. Arbitrators are supposed to be impartial. Party-appointed arbitrators, however, are often perceived, fairly or not to be impartial. Several studies come to the conclusion that party-appointed arbitrators are inclined to adopt positions favorable to their appointing party, even if unintentionally. The perception that party-appointed arbitrators are not impartial appears to be well entrenched and ranges widely, including within the circles of well-established arbitration centers. If the common perception then is that party-appointed arbitrators are often partisan, and if this often means that their opinions are discounted or not taken seriously by chairmen of arbitral tribunals, and if this typically means that chairmen are the effective sole arbiters of disputes, and if chairmen are often appointed by courts or arbitration centers, how much autonomy do parties really have in this process? Is it possibly no more than wishful thinking? And if we look beyond the issue of party autonomy, which appears to be in question, How does the practice of party-appointed arbitrators fare on the other metrics? Does it promote trust in arbitration, or does it undermine it? The record appears to suggest that it often permits parties to engage in undesirable practices that do not serve justice or efficiency, including gaming the system or deliberately delaying appointing an arbitrator, thereby creating inefficiencies that frustrate the process and precipitate deadlocks requiring judicial or institutional intervention to complete the composition of a tribunal. The practice also appears to favor more powerful parties or those with greater familiarity with arbitration, thereby giving them an advantage in selecting more favorable arbitrators to their interests. Less experienced parties may struggle to identify and secure competent arbitrators. And it appears to promote the dissenting arbitrator syndrome, the tendency of party-appointed arbitrators to take positions that favor their appointing party, often resulting in dissents that reflect partisan reasoning rather than objective dispute resolution. All of this does not appear to serve the objective of promoting confidence in arbitration, but possibly to its erosion. The practice of party-appointed arbitrators appear to raise questions on all metrics, including impartiality, party autonomy, efficiency, fairness, and legitimacy. One, of course, may counter with the Churchillian retort. Yes, the practice of party-appointed arbitrators is the worst form of arbitration except for all the other forms. But is it so? For the sake of brevity and the chance of garnering some mercy, I shall refrain from surveying all potential alternatives to party-appointed arbitrators that the literature dwells on, and settle for highlighting one such alternative that is available to parties in many institutional arbitrations, and that may deserve special consideration. Before doing so, however, let me point out that parties may, of course, always opt for a sole arbitrator, which in reality is what they often end up with under the current common practice. And by doing so, they may save on the cost of the often perceived second tier of advocates. But if parties desire to have a tribunal with 3 arbitrators, why not strive to have such a tribunal in reality, not just in appearance? Why not have a genuinely deliberative body comprised of neutral arbitrators who are free from the cloud of suspicion of partiality that afflicts party-appointed arbitrators? One possible alternative approach that is available to parties is institutional appointment of all arbitrators, the list method. Under this method, the institution concerned provide parties to a dispute with a list of potential arbitrators selected for their qualifications and expertise in the subject matter of the dispute at hand. And the parties rank their preferences while striking names they find unacceptable. To avoid delays caused by both parties rejecting multiple nominees, the institution may limit the number of rejections or require parties to provide reasons for rejections. The arbitrators with the highest mutual ranking are appointed. This method appears to permit meaningful party involvement in the process, while ensuring that there is a measure of neutrality in the appointed arbitrators, in the sense that they would not feel beholden to one party or the other. It is a process that promises to enhance the credibility of all 3 appointed arbitrators, and thus promotes a more meaningful deliberative process that better serves the interests of all concerned. It also promises to prevent or reduce incidences of strategic appointments and delay tactics, thereby enhancing the perception of fairness and the legitimacy of the arbitral process. This method, the list method, is available to parties under the arbitration rules of the Saudi Center for Commercial Arbitration and under the rules of other institutions. Typically, the list method is offered as an option. Some may argue that the list method limits party autonomy. Does it? Aside from the fact that parties in international arbitration will continue to enjoy autonomy over choice of law, over the place of arbitration, over rules of arbitration, and over the choice of institution and whose auspices that the arbitration would be conducted if they choose to do so, they will continue to have a meaningful say in the choice of arbitrators from amongst the list of qualified candidates with expertise in the subject of their dispute. In other words, arbitration would continue to afford parties autonomies on all fronts that matter to them, compared to court litigation, including over the choice of arbitrators. Some may argue that the proposed alternative approach may create concerns over transparency in how institutions select arbitrators. True, but perhaps these concerns may be ameliorated by the institution pre-approving and pre-publishing its lists of arbitrators in various fields of dispute resolution. And the institution can enhance the credibility of its selection process by being transparent and outlining the criteria for this process. Institutions have an incentive to promote their credibility and legitimacy by observing high standards in the approval and selection processes, failing of which threatens the viability of the institution as a going concern. Of course, if an arbitration center lacks sufficient resources or processes, to appoint arbitrators quickly, this could lead to delays in proceedings. And if an arbitration center relies on a small or rigid list of arbitrators, parties may not always get the most suitable arbitrators for their dispute. But the aforementioned concerns apply equally, whether the institution is called upon to appoint a third arbitrator or all three of them. The ultimate viability of the alternative approach, however, is of course dependent on the willingness of parties and practitioners to adopt it and make use of it. In conclusion, there is of course no perfect solution, but the common practice of favoring party-appointed arbitrators may be due for some reconsideration. As I have outlined in these remarks, reliance on party-appointed arbitrators presents challenges that can undermine the legitimacy of arbitration. And the alternative I have pointed to appears to offer a better way on all important metrics, including impartiality, efficiency, and fairness, while balancing party autonomy. The key is to ensure that arbitration continues to be trusted, credible, and effective. For this to be the case, arbitration must evolve to maintain its role as a premier dispute resolution method in international and commercial disputes. As we move forward, arbitration centers, practitioners, and users must work together to refine selection mechanisms that enhance neutrality without sacrificing efficiency or party engagement. Thank you.